I'd like to talk in this YouTube video about my book, Walt Whitman, Shamanism, Spiritual Democracy and the World Soul, which was published by Eloquent Books in 2010. The book starts off with a dream, and I explore in depth the idea of shamanism in American poetry, with Whitman as the seminal poet-shaman who arrived at this notion, which is so important for our time, of spiritual democracy. And the way he gained access to this was through an in-depth study of religion, the world religions. The chapters build up to a point where I discuss Whitman's religious vision, and that's chapter 23. And I just want to recite for you a passage from his unpublished prose notebooks and unpublished manuscripts. It's called God Abdicates. And he says this. He says, "I say to you that all forms of religion, without excepting one, any age, any land, are but mediums, temporary yet necessary, fitted to the lower mass ranges of perception of the race, part of the infant school, and that the developed soul passes through one or all of them to the clear, homogeneous atmosphere above them. There all meet, previous distinctions are lost. Jew meets Hindu and Persian Greek, and Asiatic and European and American are joined, and any one religion is just as good as another." Now this idea really expresses Whitman's breadth of vision. He's talking about an atmosphere which is above the world religions in their separate states. It's a unitary place which the ancient rishis of India called the superconscious. Whitman, using modern science and the breakthrough in astronomy, is getting outside of the atmosphere of the Earth that we knew in the 1850s into the cosmic atmosphere that he is speaking to. And it's this place that he's looking down from. This is what's called democratic vistas. This is the third stage of democracy that he's speaking to. He distinguishes between political, economic, and religious or spiritual democracy. There are three strata, and the third subsumes the first two. Whitman represents the third stage. Now, all of this was in seed form in his earlier poems, and in 1856, he published a poem in this volume, the second edition of Leaves of Grass, called "By Blue Ontario's Shore." And this poem he carried forward into the 1860 edition, and then throughout later editions of Leaves of Grass. And it contains the idea of e pluribus unum, or the poem of many in the one. So this is really an American notion that he's bringing forward that's in our insignia for the American emblem. The emblem, e pluribus unum, the many in the one. This represents the idea of the many religions in the one. Now he's claiming that he's arrived at a vision transcendent of anything that has come before. He's looking at religion and spirituality from an evolutionary standpoint. And he's right on the cusp of modern psychology, with the birth of Sigmund Freud in 1856. And in addition, Whitman presents a model of the libido, the libido as bi-erotic, bisexual or bi-erotic. This actually forms the nucleus in the book for my own development of post-Jungian psychology, post-Jungian thought about the transformations of the libido and its spiritualization. Whitman, Melville, and Dickinson all have bi-erotic symbolisms in their poetries, and seeing this during the political movement to institutionalize same-sex marriage throughout the world, I use this theme throughout the book as a way to show how progressive Whitman was, how futuristic, how remarkably modern Whitman really is. In Blue Ontario Shore, he says this: "I swear I begin to see the meaning of these things. It is not the earth, it is not America who is great. It is I who am great, or to be great. It is you up there," meaning in the atmosphere again, where all the religions are united, or any one individual who can achieve these states of consciousness Whitman's speaking to. It is to walk rapidly through civilizations, governments, theories, through poems, pageants, shows, to form individuals. Underneath all, he says, individuals. I swear nothing is great to me now that ignores individuals. The American compact is altogether with individuals. The only government is that which makes minute of individuals. The whole theory of the universe is directed unerringly to one individual, namely to you. Now, in this section of what is now known as By Blue Ontario Shore, section 15 of the poem, Whitman actually presents a model for what Carl Jung calls the self. He's speaking about the individual as the myself, which he uses in Song of Myself with a capital M, as the place where these developments are occurring in the world. So the book builds to a point where I present this idea, Whitman's religious vision, and it starts to really find its feet, its backbone on the eve of the Civil War. And Whitman wrote a very short little poem called To the States in 1860, which I'll recite to you, and it goes like this. To the States, or any one of them, or any city of the States. Resist much, obey little. Once unquestioning obedience, once fully enslaved, no nation, state, or city of this earth ever afterward regains its liberty. Now, Whitman, of course, is writing out of the basic ideas in the American Constitution, namely the First Amendment, the freedom of religion. He's basically putting forth his own spiritual vision here. And speaking for the importance of finding one's own individual truth, one's own myth, and using techniques that he develops here in his overall work, which he calls free verse, which he's now internationally famous for, but also the technique of vocalism, an idea which I really developed quite extensively throughout the book, as Whitman's method for engaging in this dialectic with the collective unconscious and bringing about this birth of a new idea for the nation and for the world soul, which he calls spiritual democracy.